Now, Oddball and Domino, you puppies stay right here. Take care of our humans while we're gone, and don't worry. We'll be back with all your brothers and sisters as soon as we can.
Goodbye, my darlings, and be good.
So, do you want to stay here and be good? Or do you want to go help rescue our family?
My thoughts exactly, sis. Let's go.
Hey there guys, Nordic Warrior here, welcome back to my video game review series. Today we're going to be looking at another PS1 classic, Disney's 102 Dalmatians, Puppies to the Rescue, released in the year 2000, developed by Crystal Dynamics and Toys for Bob. So I'm sure I don't need to tell you guys about the Dalmatian movies. The original classic from 1961 is one of the best animated movies ever in my opinion, and it really holds up well even today. I even enjoyed the live action remake from the 90s, that movie's incredible. 102 Dalmatians was a lesser known sequel to that movie that isn't as well regarded, but I personally like it. I actually watched them both recently and I was reminded of a time when Disney actually used to make good movies. Yeah, that was a while ago, but I digress. As far as the game goes, it was released to essentially tie in with that movie, though it isn't actually based on the movie itself, rather having its own original story. The game is a third-person action-adventure platformer, as well as a collectathon type of game, with a classic circular level design that was popular in games in the late 90s and early 2000s. So those of you who have been following my channel over the years will know that PS1 action-adventure platformers of this kind are a huge passion of mine. I basically grew up with these kinds of games, and they're the kind of games that I find incredibly stimulating and fun. The story of the game is a relatively simple one. Cruella de Vil has released a new line of toys, which are of course selling poorly, facing financial ruin. Cruella reprograms her toys to capture any pet that they find, so that she can freeze them in a substance called Super Gloop, hoping to sell them as a new line of realistic animal toys. Yeah, I know, it's pretty weird.
Falls Boom, my high-tech hireling, initiate Plan B.
The Dalmatian puppies have all been kidnapped, with the exception of Oddball and Domino, who act as the game's protagonist. The two puppies will have to set out on an adventure to rescue their siblings as well as their parents and defeat Cruella. As far as the overall gameplay goes, as I mentioned before, the game is a third-person action-adventure platformer. In some ways it's reminiscent of classic collectathon games such as Spyro or Croc. The game has 20 levels during its campaign, each being their own individual sandbox. The goal of each level is simple: fight your way past Cruella's toys, obtain collectibles, complete puzzles and platforming challenges, and reach the end of the level. What's interesting about the game too is that you can choose which of the protagonists you want to play as, switching between Oddball and Domino at any time during gameplay. The difference between the two is purely cosmetic however, as well as both of them having a different voice.
My temporary residence until my studies are complete.
Your studies? What are you gonna be, a lawyer?
Strange. Everyone presumes that. But, in fact, I intend to become a successful stockbroker.
Which feels like a bit of a wasted opportunity to me, since they could have implemented this into the game's puzzles, by having both puppies possess a different ability of sorts. But it is what it is. The main collectible of each level is the Dalmatian puppies. There are 6 of them in each level locked up in boxes. Some of them are out in the open and easy to find, others are hidden on obscure locations, and may require you to complete a particular puzzle, challenge or platforming section to acquire. Simply roll into a box to break it open and rescue a puppy. Sometimes they'll even have something funny to say. These do repeat from time to time however.
Thanks for rescuing me.
Sure feels good to be out of there.
In addition to the puppies, each level will also have 100 bones scattered around them. Some of these will simply be lying around, others will be hidden in secret areas, or must be obtained by completing challenges or interacting with the environment. You can also obtain bones by defeating enemies, as well as sniffing them out and digging them up from the ground in certain locations. When you find all 100 bones in a level, you unlock a sticker. More on those later. In addition to these collectibles, you can also find extra lives which are quite useful. though you probably won't need many of them since the game is very easy. It is a kids game after all, so I don't really mind that, but I digress. In addition to finding collectibles, the game also has quite a bit of combat. Enemies mostly consist of Cruella's toys, and there's a surprising amount of enemy variety with them. You can defeat enemies by simply barking at them, or rolling into them like Sonic the Hedgehog. It's quite funny to see Dalmatian puppies do this, but I digress. In addition to the regular enemies, you also occasionally run into Cruella's henchmen Jasper and Horace. They will usually be blocking a particular area of the level and will need to be removed. You can do this by luring them into a trap and incapacitating them. When doing this you get a cutscene. These are pretty funny.
Come back here, you stupid dog! Whoa! Uh-oh.
Jasper, what a crack up.
Easy now, mate. Easy. Phew. Why, you little...
That Jasper, he's the coolest guy I know.
The overall platforming mechanics in the game are surprisingly competent. The jumping controls feel incredibly fluid and easy to get the hang of, and they never feel in any way awkward or janky. It's really fun to traverse the levels, avoiding obstacles and finding the collectibles. In addition to all this, the game has plenty of mini-games to find and interact with, as well as some unique challenges. These do their bit to spice up the gameplay. The game also has plenty of level and location variety, just like all the best platformers. Some levels are brighter and more vibrant, others are darker and more gloomy. You get levels that take place indoors, levels that take place outdoors. You explore the streets of London, the park, a toy factory, the countryside, a farm, the woods, a snowy, icy area. You even get a level that takes place in Cruella's mansion. So much variety in terms of the overall visual aesthetics of each level. And it does its bit to help the game feel more varied and less repetitive. You even get a level that takes place in a huge hedge maze. That level was actually surprisingly challenging when compared to the rest of the game, and I quite enjoyed it. What helps keep the levels interesting too is that there's plenty of dialogue. You run into various characters who will often give you hints and tips about the levels, and I appreciate this.
Hello there, puppy. Name's Waddlesworth. Welcome to Regent's Park.
The game also has several boss battles. Basically every third level consists of a boss level, each boss being Cruella herself. When you take her on, she usually has access to some kind of gadget or vehicle, and you'll have to defeat her. These bosses are incredibly easy and present practically no challenge at all if you have any gaming sensibilities whatsoever. But yeah, again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a game made for kids, so it is what it is. I still had a lot of fun with them, so that pretty much sums up what the game has to offer. And yeah, for the most part, it's a pretty solid platformer. Now let's talk about some of the bonus features, because there's actually quite a lot of them in this game. I mentioned earlier that you can unlock stickers. You have a virtual sticker book that can be accessed from the menu, and here you can view all the stickers that you unlocked in the game. These consist of artwork that you can look at, and it's fun to do so. In addition to this, there are also a whole bunch of mini-games you can play, some of which are even multiplayer. These are a lot of fun and there's a surprising amount of effort put into them. For example, you can play mini-golf. This is incredibly fun, I had a blast playing through it. Checkers, which of course is just a game of checkers. Dig Dog, which is a memory matching game where you basically compete to see who can match the correct items first. Tilt Maze, which is extremely difficult and pretty self-explanatory. Jam Dance, where the puppy is in a recording studio where you can make music. And probably my personal favourite, Ice Race. This is a racing minigame where you can basically race against several of the game's NPCs that you encountered during the game. What's cool about this is as you win races, you can unlock new characters to play as. And this isn't just cosmetic. Each racer has their own little quirk and advantage, as well as their own limitation. For example, if you play as the mouse, you move much slower, but can access several shortcuts using mouse holes that the other characters can't access. Seriously, the Ice Race minigame is a lot of fun and it'll keep you playing for a while. I really enjoyed these minigames and I personally think they played their part in adding some much needed variety to the game. So for the most part, this game is pretty good. It's a solid third-person action-adventure platformer, with plenty of combat, collectibles, minigames as well as challenges, and a huge amount of level and location variety. Sadly though, the game isn't perfect. As I mentioned before, the game is incredibly easy, which may put off some hardcore gamers who like more of a challenge in games. Also, the game does have some technical issues here and there. Such as clipping and collision detection problems. Also, the graphics and presentation are extremely dated for the year 2000. I get that this is technically a movie tie-in and it probably didn't have as big a budget as most AAA titles from the time. But yeah, the game just looks pretty poor to me. It's not a huge issue as the game is still fun, but it's worth pointing out. Also, despite having 20 levels, the game feels incredibly short still, which again may put off some hardcore gamers. And I suppose it doesn't really do anything that any of the legendary platformers from the time didn't do better. So I suppose you could say it's a bit generic and formulaic. But if I'm being honest, despite its issues I still had a lot of fun with it. The game served its purpose. I give 102 Dalmatians, Puppies to the Rescue, a solid 7 out of 10. It's just a game that does exactly what you'd expect and then some, with plenty of variety and bonus features to keep you interested. Thanks for watching guys, I really enjoyed checking this game out and reviewing it. Stay tuned for more retrospective video game reviews. Once again I have a lot of reviews coming to the channel in the near future. Thanks for watching and God bless.
Don't worry, Dottie. All our puppies are safe, and the police will make sure that evil woman won't bother us again for a long, long time. Now let's go home.